So we're going to get started. I'm just going to go through the event guidelines and then we'll take it from there. So video, this event will be recorded. You will not appear in the video. Again, mute courtesy, which means your audio will be muted during this event. If you have questions, please submit them in the Q&A section. And again, closed captioning is available. To turn it on, click on the live transcription icon at the bottom of your screen and to select your preference. All right, so the agenda, we're going to go and do the introductions really quick. We're going to do a tech update. We're going to spend about 25 to 30 minutes there, followed by a Q&A session. So we'll start the introductions. Again, my name is Rajib Ahmed. I've joined here about a year and a month ago, so very excited to be here. My pronouns are he and him. My role here is the CTO. And with me here today, I have Annyce Davis. So Annyce, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yep. Hey, folks. Annyce. I'm the Senior Director of Engineering here at Meetup. It's been a little over 2 years. Still really excited to tackle the big problems that Meetup has in store.
All right, great. So I'll take on the first section where I'll go through the engineering updates. So I'll start on the next slide. So this is a friendly reminder to all. We will be heavily focused on the engineering side and not as much on the product side. The product side we'll be covering in January and February in much more detail, but we're really going to focus on the engineering roadmap, what we've done, our focus, the big 3 S's that we'll talk about shortly, how we progressed with our new tech stack, discovery and recommendations, 22 and beyond. And then I will hand it off to Annyce for the mobile apps update for what we've done. Next slide. All right, so engineering focus. We set out to make progressive improvements to our infrastructure, primarily hosted on AWS. We started and launched and expanded on our new modern platform, which was built on Next.js, TypeScript, and GraphQL. And we looked at upgrading our notification strategy, both from our architecture, from how we want to personalize, and how we really do a multi-channel approach to sending notifications out. And last but not the least, focusing on quality was a big thing we undertook. We wanted to make sure at every step, quality was the name of the game. So on the next slide, I'll share how we set up a framework to accomplish this, but we did make a ton of progress and excited to share the results. All right, so the framework we used is what I call the 3 big S's. For anyone that joined a year ago and you could remember, the 3 big S's stand for speed, scalability, and security. And these are the 3 concepts that we've helped to ground us on how we want to expand on our Meetup platform. All right, now on this next slide, I'll be sharing the different areas we looked at and how we really focused on them. Next. All right, so the first thing we did is really focus on building a faster platform that allows our web, our apps, our APIs, and underlying all to be resilient in speed and to give the most optimal experiences and be built on modern technologies. So we shifted a lot of our technology from older legacy platforms into newer ones. So for those of you that don't know, our oldest platform is 18 years old. It's written in a combination of classic JSP and Python, and we really saw that there was a great opportunity to move into a modern framework, really understand the new rules that we needed to adapt to, and really have it more responsive and up to date with the technology platform that we've chosen. The next thing we really focused on was looking at our hosting. How do we have a path to set us to go multi-region, to allow us to be available and reliable at all times? And I'll be talking about that in a few upcoming slides. And the last one is really when we look at security, how do we look at security? What have we done? What are some focuses on business continuity that we looked at in combination with that, which I'll talk about in a few slides as well. Right, next slide. All right, so going a little deeper into the first item I talked about, which was really about our platform. So in Q1 of this year, we rebuilt all of our APIs, or I would say a majority of our APIs. We started launching our new platform and really started moving our experiences over. In Q2, once our platform had launched, we took the member profile, we did the search, we looked at how we do recommendations and launched our new homepage. Next, what we did was we really looked at other areas that we know were pain points for our members. So Login, it took 6 seconds for login to take. Sometimes it would take 6 seconds for really slow connected folks for that page to load. The photo experiences that we have across our different apps and web was lacking. We took extra measures for account protection, limiting takeover, limiting basically for brute force attacks, making sure that we have preventative measures, looking at GDPR and making sure that we are compliant on all those areas. And as we were doing that, we were also building and now launched our new events pages, stats, registration, our reset password and notification. So we really took a big, huge leap on how we can shift a lot of our legacy areas over to our modern application. And as of now, at the end of the year, more than 60% of our legacy application will have been migrated. So it was a huge success. We're seeing tremendous amount of traffic now being from mobile web coming in, and recognizing that speed made a big difference on conversions. Speed made a big difference on how engagement actually changed for our members using our applications. Next slide. So again, one of the biggest things that we also focused on was speed. So ultimately that's for faster experiences, device level optimizations, low latency across our APIs, and a smaller footprint over our network. On the next slide, you'll see how we actually focused on this. So in Q1 and Q2, we really looked at the data that powers our sites and significantly went to improve those. We looked at our speed of our APIs and honed in on which ones we need to actually migrate, which things were above 200 milliseconds, and really bringing them down to a 5200 millisecond speed. At this point, our average speed is about 275 milliseconds for our APIs. We're still aiming to get it down to 200, but our high performing APIs have all been shifted further down, which is super exciting. The next part is really about looking at, from our web experience, as we were building new pages, how do we optimize them for both web and for mobile web using a tool for Lighthouse, and our native apps using caching in a much smarter way that allows for no waiting from our members and instant gratification with experiences being available right away. So we were super excited about those aspects because it really made a difference, not just across experience, but from latency across our systems and the SLAs that we need to deliver on. So on the next slide, here's an example of our latest events pages that recently launched. We went from our old page on a 3G connection starting to load at 6 seconds. It would usually take 20 seconds to finish loading all the way to now we're way below 3 seconds. If I were to zoom in here, it's actually about 2.6 seconds. But again, this is on a 3G connection, on a poor connection. Think of that as if you're outside and you're on 2 bars and no LTE connection, we would come back extremely fast across mobile web. So extremely excited for every one of our templates that have moved over. We made sure that each of them was robust and fast and performant. Next slide. All right, so for scalability, the main thing that we really focused on was multi-region. Currently, we are hosted today on AWS. Our primary zone is on the East Coast. When that means that we are relying on AWS on the East Coast, and what we wanted to do was to make sure that we have a plan to be resilient across multiple regions. So what we did in 2021 was look at all of our client applications, which means our APIs that are front-end serving. It also means that our websites, and we shifted them to a multi-region on the West Coast, and also looking to expand that globally. Now, obviously, that means that's only part of a multi-region strategy. We still have other things in our infrastructure that we need to move, and that was part of what we executed. We did do a lot of security enhancements. They included pen tests, they included accessibility scanning. We did a lot of things for GDPR and data cleanup, which we're excited to do and is always going to continue. So again, the big focus here is making sure that our platform is reliable and always available and always up. There's work to be done, but we have also taken tremendous amount of preliminary steps to get us where we need to go. All right, so again, security, I touched on this a bit. Earlier on this year, we really focused on accessibility. We're always doing scans to always improve on what we can do. We've gone through penetration vulnerability optimizations that we've executed on and always looking to scan and re-execute on. We've taken steps for GDPR erasure, and we're always looking to enhance that with any changes or rules that will come along. We've also tightened our account security. So for all of our members, we always look on how do we can secure our systems more, how do we make it tighter across all applications, and we've took multiple initiatives for that. And again, we continue to do audits on a continuing basis to make sure our security is at the forefront. All right, so that's 2021. That's the recap. We went for scale, speed, and security. So what's happening in 2022? If you click next, here's the big surprise: scale, speed, and security. Yep, there it is. Next slide. So I know what you're all thinking. Wait, what? What just happened? Next slide, please. All right, so I can explain this a bit further. The engineering strategy is for us not just a one-year strategy, it's a focus that we're going to do over multiple years. So this is part of a 3-year strategy that we started in 2020, 2021, and we'll go into 2022 and beyond. So a couple of key things that I wanted to call out here, which is, look, we're going to continue to build off of our new platform. 60% of our major traffic is going to be moved. There's other things that will slowly move in there, but our primary areas are already migrated. We're really going to be now focusing on back-end optimizations. So that means we're going to be nerding out on our RDS databases, our data lake, our EMRs, and really looking to see how we can optimize those. We're going to be advancing our caching architecture into a pub/sub model. I won't bore you all with what that is, but let's just say things will be cached for longer, but when a change is made, it'll instantly be refreshed. Okay, so everyone gets the latest information real time. Next, multi-region. We talked about our clients moving, but now we're going to take our backends and start moving them. Again, a lot of focus on data and how we also scale that as well. And of course, security, we're going to continue to do things for accessibility, pen and vulnerability. We're going to be ISO certified, and we're going to continue on account protection policies and data security. So at a high level, here are all the items for 2022 that we're going to be executing on. I'm very excited about all of these things, but that's not all. Next slide before I hand it off to Annyce. All right, I wanted to also share on top of the 2022 roadmap, there are a few key things that we will focus on that are very exciting for all of us. One is we're looking to do big improvements on search. We've heard from you, and we always are looking to get feedback, so always keep it coming, that we need to improve our search more, whether that's how we're matching, whether it's by event for the events or the groups, location and time, relevancy, better recommendations, better location proximity. Those are all things we're going to undergo this year, next year, to be able to fulfill. But we're also going to be improving our recommendations that ultimately help members find related events based on their interest, based on the topics, based on what they would prefer to see. And we're looking to update our models behind the scenes for how that is actually executed. Again, earlier I mentioned notifications. We're looking for multi-channel, whether that's post notification, emails, or in-app product notifications that come in. We're going to be improving how we do this. Again, we've taken big steps this year to move to a new platform, a new architecture. We're going to be expanding on that in 2022. We're going to be looking at all of our organizer tools and creating new ones, as well as enhancing existing ones. So look forward to that. We've already started undertaking some projects there. And the last thing I would say is personalization. Across all of our different areas, we will be personalizing more because we understand that content recommendations are important, and we want to make sure that what is relevant to our members is what we actually showcase content for, to give them the best quality content that we can. So I spent a lot of time and stayed away from anything related to the apps because I wanted Annyce to be able to talk through all those points. So I will hand it over to Annyce to talk about mobile apps.
Thanks a lot, Rajib. So here's your apps update. But first, let's take a quick look back at where we started the year. So we began by unveiling our two-pronged strategy for how we planned on approaching the native apps. The first prong was related to boosting the quality of the member app. And then the second was introducing a new application designed specifically for organizers. The first prong of the strategy we codenamed Project Renaissance. Project Renaissance allowed us to think more holistically about how we could deliver a quality experience to our members, broken down into four buckets. The first was best practice. This involved things like performance, accessibility, and smart empty states. Next were millennials, providing smart defaults, customization, and real time feedback. Emerging markets. Specifically, we were focused on offline support, battery savings, and more iconography. And finally, we wanted to begin to expand to the Gen Z market with new voice and video features along with widgets. And boy, do we deliver. We've replatformed 80% of the high traffic screens in the apps. We've also had accessibility sweeps performed by external companies and have prioritized several updates. We released a series of new widgets that allow you to stay up to date on the latest events, fixed a whopping 517 bugs so far this year. Next, we've reduced app startup time by 6%, as well as some additional features added for battery savings. And I'm going to get into some of the technical details of how we did that momentarily. But first, I want to thank my entire team who worked so hard to balance shipping new features while simultaneously getting better with speed, scale, and security. Speaking of which, here's how we've improved the speed of the native apps. We've implemented what we call per query caching for our GraphQL queries. Now, what does that mean? Each time a network request is attempted, we go through this entire flow that you see here. This allows us to bypass making a needless network request when the desired data is still valid on the member's device. By doing so, we've been able to provide a snappier experience to your members without sacrificing the quality of the data provided. We've also done work to improve network performance via query caching. Some of the GraphQL requests that we need to make from the apps are very large, as we need to request several fields in order to display to the screen. This is just a portion of the requests that we need to send in order to display the event screen. But Apollo Server supports automatic persisted queries. This is what we're using so that instead of sending that long query string, we can send along a unique identifier that will dramatically reduce the request sizes. And we're really excited to have this rolled out on all the newer versions of our native applications. Now let's move on to security. We're in the process of releasing two-factor authentication on the native apps. This kicks in whenever our backend system determines that the member attempting to log in requires some additional verification. Now, this can happen for several reasons. Maybe they haven't logged in for a really long time, maybe their IP address seems suspicious, and so forth. By providing this self-service mechanism, we're helping to keep your account safe while providing a path forward to continue using the applications. And finally, what about scale? We've scaled our quality control of the apps by partnering with an industry-recognized leader in the testing space, Teslio. We use Teslio to help expand our in-house testing capabilities. Well, how? First of all, testing is done once per week, rotating between the iOS and the Android application. Teslio provides testers from over 14 countries using a variety of devices and operating systems, something that we're not able to achieve ourselves. And so far, they've created over 1,200 test cases and assisted us in identifying several issues that could have impacted the member experience of our apps, but we were able to catch it and fix it first. But now, let's take a look
Annyce,
forward.
quick question
Yes,
for you. Someone asked, when you say apps, does that mean native apps?
yes, that means native apps. This is all about native apps. Thank you.
Great.
All right, so let's take a look forward at what's to come on our native apps. So the Organizer app. Remember, that was the second prong of the strategy that I referred to earlier. It's in beta now. It's the application that we've built for organizers based on the extensive research and feedback from you. Currently, the app supports the basic event create experience. However, it's soon going to have an event wizard flow, support for multiple groups, and localization so that organizers can use it in their preferred language, and much more. We're so excited for you to sign up for the beta of this organizer app. I really want to extend a personal invitation to all of you present. You will be able to find the link in the chat and also in the following correspondence from this Meetup Live event. We've already begun adding new features, and we've even reprioritized the order of the roadmap based on some of the helpful suggestions from early adopters. I would really love for each of you to play a part in helping to shape this application that we believe is going to be essential to how you manage your communities in the future. So thank you so much for your time today, and I'll turn it back over to Rajib.
All right, thanks, Annyce. Before we go over the other sections, I'm going to ask a few impromptu questions to you, Annyce, just on the app side, because I know a lot of folks are interested. What's the number one thing you're the most excited about that was accomplished in 2021, and what are you looking forward to the most in 2022?
The thing that I'm most excited about was the launch of the Organizer app beta, not just because it's going to provide this new experience for organizers, but because of the technology that's in the product. It's using Kotlin multi-platform mobile. So this was really exciting to be in the forefront of adopting a new technology like that, as well as using Swift UI and Jetpack Compose, which are even newer libraries available from Apple and Google right now. So the fact that the team was able to just not only bring a new product sort of to birth, but the fact that it involves so many new nascent technologies was just really impressive to me.
Great. Don't worry, only two more questions before we go to the
All right.
Q&A. Next one is, I'm really impressed at the speed of how our apps get released, but many of the folks that are here today may not know. So how often do the apps get released?
Yeah, so each version of the app is released every 2 weeks. This is speaking of the member applications, iOS and Android. And so we do a rotation, as I mentioned, with Teslio. So they do regression sweep on the iOS application, and then that week it will be released. The next week, it's Android's turn to get some testing done, and then it's released. But when it comes to the Organizer app, since it is in a beta phase, we're actually doing weekly releases right now. So we want to be as responsive as possible to the feedback that we're receiving from the early adopters.
Perfect. Great. And my last question, which I said the best for last, is how does the team today and in the future going to look at app reviews, and how important is that to you?
Yeah, app reviews are extremely important. We actually have a third-party software that we use to make sure we are emailed the reviews on a weekly basis to everyone. Some people are a bit more aggressive, like myself, who like to get the push notifications for all the 1 to 3 star reviews because I want to know immediately to see if there's a trend. There's also a defects meeting that takes place between our customer support specialists and our product managers every single week, where they're triaging the input that they're receiving from all channels. And so they're making sure that it's not just, oh, someone's had a issue, let's jump on that one thing. We try to do the things that are most impactful and that are the high priority fixes. So, like, as usual, we're reading all the reviews. If you think we're not, you're wrong. We definitely are, and we take it very seriously.
All right, Annyce, thank you for those impromptu questions, Q&A session between us. For all of you folks, thank you for joining, Annyce. Absolutely awesome work throughout this year, and I know continued excellent work to come up next year. Thank you for all your contributions. For those of you, if you are not aware, we do have a podcast called Keep Connected with David Siegel, who's our CEO. You can subscribe now at meetuppodcast.com or scan the code that is on the current screen. All right. From this point, we will be going into our Q&A session, and we will go into that.
Great. I'll stop share.
Yes. All right. I'll start with the first one, which is, does multi-region scales improve speed? Great question. This is from Sutarzan. Apologies if I mispronounced your name. Yes, multi-region, the way we're designing it is that it will improve speed because it will need to travel to it'll travel to closer areas to be able to retrieve the information. So the best example I can explain that is if someone is from Australia that is coming and using our app, that app will need to communicate to our APIs all the way in the East Coast today, which means it has to travel and do multiple hops to be able to get the information quickly. If we are able to do multi-region across globally, then it will only need to travel to the closest area where we have that region, which ultimately means the way that it'll access our multi-region database, I'll process through the API and send the information back will be faster. So yes, it will be faster, but it needs many areas for multi-region to actually take place. Because if you just move your APIs and not the underlying data, then it still needs to come all the way over to get that data and it wouldn't be as fast. So there's many facets that we're looking at, but yes, I think for resiliency and for speed improvement, we definitely wanted to do that. I think apps and specifying mobile apps, we already answered that question. Yes, anytime we refer to apps, Annyce, you refer apps to mobile apps, native apps, as you speak to that, right? Okay, next one that came in. All right. Annyce, are you familiar with the log4j and if that is impacting us?
Yeah, so we have done some updates to the latest version of Log4j. We haven't obviously fallen prey to the security vulnerability, but we're just being proactive, like most organizations out there, and upgrading to the latest version of Log4j.
Perfect. This is a question, Annyce, maybe we both can answer that. I'll read it out to you first. Did I understand you are going to have your own native online meetup platform? Are you also going to be live matching users outside of groups like Clubhouse? You want to go first, Annyce?
Yeah, if I understand the question, we are going to have a new application, which is Meetup for Organizers. It's already in beta. And that application is going to be focused on the organizer tools like creating events, attendance taking, managing your group, etc. So not sure about the second part of the question as far as matching people like Clubhouse. This is for people who are organizers at Meetup.
Yes. And Steve, if this was a question regarding a focus on online meeting tools or building an online digital video conferencing tool, those are things that we're looking at a different way. For example, we're looking at Zoom integrations and other things right now, but nothing with third-party integrations relating to Clubhouse as of yet. All right. Maury asked, can you add a share to Facebook button on create an event page? I think it's a product question. Yes, we will take that into account and I will share that with our product team. We do have many sharing and social media requests that will come in, but I will make sure that we share that. Davis asked, is it someone's list to, okay, basically this is a question. Is it someone's list to finally fix the 7 p.m. bug that quickly changes the start time of any copied events to 7 p.m.? Davis, I am not sure if I can get a bit more details into that specific bug. That would be super helpful. I'll make sure that we look into that specific bug. We do know that with international search, with respect to time and with respect to location, there are some optimizations that we have to make. Those are already underway. The research has already taken place, and over the next few sprints, we expect to make big changes and updates that will solve those issues. All right, I think we're up to the last question from Anonymous. is the web app going to be a priority? This is opposed to native apps.
Yes, I'll say the web app has always been the priority, and we're seeing a slight shift now in Meetup where we're also prioritizing the native apps as well. What's really exciting about Meetup being a small company is that a lot of our initiatives for 2022 are cross-platform and cross-team. So some of the goodies that you see coming out in web will also be available on the apps and vice versa, which is really exciting for us as an organization.
Right. All right, Steve asked one more question, but how about matching people based on algorithms? Yes, so Steve, great question. We are looking at many things. The first one is our matching algorithms and relevancy. Basically, how are we going to optimize that further? What are the different signals that can feed into it? What are some data science methodologies we can use in 2022 to advance that? Those are all things that we're going to be taking advantage of in the coming year. Is there any, and one more question from Steve, is there any way to submit white papers to the product app development team? Yes, we can. Steve, Vitka, I will find a way to inform you where we can submit those to. So we'll find a place for you to be able to submit any white papers that we can then look over. Okay. Steve, we will get your email address and we will send that over to you. All right, on that note, oh, we have one last question. All right, final question, folks. This is from Anonymous. Is this done with Sigma? So
I'm not sure what this is referring to.
When person Anonymous, when it's done with Sigma, well, I'm not sure what you're referring to with Sigma. But if you can let us know, we will be able to give you a more detailed answer. All right, another question just came in. How are you planning to position Meetup to stand out in the market, to be different from Google apps and similar apps? So I'll give you my take on that, Andrew, sorry, is we value connections, and building connections is our number one goal. So while many apps are looking into virtual reality, online meeting as the only mechanism, it is very important for us to also focus on in real life events, folks meeting in person and building those relationships. So we've, as an organization, though we will provide tools to meet online, we are really focusing on the IRL, which is in real life, areas for us to focus on, and building parity between digital and in real life. So we've had focuses on hybrid events. We've continued to look at online events, but we're also making sure that we're focusing on how people actually meet in person in a safe way. We've done a lot of changes with organizers being able to control vaccination rules, COVID questionnaires, things of that nature to allow as a way to carve the future. So I do think we see ourselves very differently as a result, and something we'll continue to do. All right, let me just go through the list to see if we have any additional questions. All right, I think we've answered them all. All right, everyone. I appreciate all the questions. We look forward to chatting again in 2 months. Again, next up is going to be the product roadmap that's going to come in. You're going to hear from our CEO as well. And after that, we'll get to connect again and talk through some more engineering updates later next year. So happy holidays and have a great new year, everyone.
Bye, folks.